And we begin with some news from France, where the French Parliament has gone ahead and approved a law that will lead to tech giants being taxed. The legislation is being called GAFA tax, as in G-A-F-A, an acronym for Google, Apple, Facebook and Amazon. The law was passed by a simple show of hands in the Senate after previously being passed by the National Assembly's lower chamber. Now, this tax has angered the United States of America, and U.S. President Donald Trump has ordered an investigation into the matter. The U.S. inquiry could pave the way for tariffs, which the U.S. President has imposed on several occasions since taking office. The U.S. Trade Representative said that the U.S. is very concerned that the digital services tax of France unfairly targets American companies. The new tax by the French government targets firms such as Google and Facebook with a 3% levy on revenues made inside the country. The tax is expected to raise about $450 million this year. Any digital company with a revenue of more than $844 million would be subject to this tax. And now we have Oliver Miocic, WION correspondent, joining us live from Paris for more on that big story that we're tracking. Thank you so much for taking time out, Oliver. Talk to us. This tax has been in the works in France for a while, but it could end up creating a diplomatic row with the U.S.
Well, the reason it's going to cause some sort of fracture with the US is because the French government really does believe in this measure, thinks that this is something that is very, very necessary to protect France's interests, because they see big international technology companies making quite a lot of revenue from their services here in France, and they believe that they should be taxed accordingly for that. Now, there had been a drive Europe-wide and a hope that from the European level there would be a unified tax, but some countries have vetoed that idea. So France really putting its neck on the line here. It looks like it will be one of the first countries in Europe to set up this tax arrangement. And they were seeing from the US a potential investigation by the Trump administration, a Section 301 investigation as it is known. So this has upped the pressure and upped the temperature between relations with France and the US, potentially signalling some sort of sanctions and some sort of tariffs could be imposed on French companies in return.
Right. Oliver, I also want to double-check with you. From when does this tax start to become applicable? Is it from the current financial year or the next?
We're not too sure about that yet because Parliament is yet to vote on it. The votes will be coming today on Thursday, and we're expecting those votes in the next few hours, and then we'll get more of the detail of when this will be implemented. But we've heard today from the French Finance Minister, Bruno Le Maire, who said that he does not believe that taxation should be something that the US can have a say on. Now, France is a sovereign country, that it will decide for itself the tax regime that it wants to settle, but also that France and America have previously been allies, that they have a very strong relationship between themselves, and they hope that this proposed tax will not sour the relationship. But we do know that US President Donald Trump takes this very protectionist stance against his country's interests and the interests of his companies, which will be generating a lot of money for his own country. So there is going to be a clash between France and the US potentially over this, unless there can be some arrangements found between the two companies, between the two countries and between the companies.
Right. So we are, at this point in time, understanding what exactly the U.S. government is planning to do. But what's the word coming in from all these tech giants who are going to be taxed in France?
Well, the tech giants will be uneasy with this because for very many years they have managed, through various tax, not avoidance schemes, but tax schemes which they can divert money through different companies and different operating countries. So for quite a long time, Luxembourg has been a very, very good place for companies to set up a small headquarters in that country so they could allow the revenues from Europe to be diverted through Luxembourg, Luxembourg having a lower tax threshold. That was one way of doing it. Another way was going through Ireland. So you see, that the United Kingdom had been bidding for a lot of the business to come from the likes of Google and Facebook, but Google set up its big HQ in Ireland. They have got a lower tax regime. So what we potentially could be seeing is that fracturing of a model where the companies have been thinking that they could go to different countries to try and maybe take relief from some of the European-wide taxation systems, and actually now they will be penalised and taxed accordingly per the state. It'll be an interesting case to follow, especially for those other European countries who are thinking of implementing a similar tax, because they will now be watching very hawkishly to see the reaction of the US and to see how much revenue this generates for France. The estimates are it could be up to $450 million per year. That is something that the French state would love to have in their coffers, something to shore up their accounts books, especially considering the fact that the accounts and the fiscal state of France has been hit over the past year from a multitude of factors, none the least being the Yellow Vest protest movement, which has impacted both the state's finances through lost revenues due to taxes from shops, through the business, through the busy Christmas period, but also on the fact that the infrastructure has been damaged too.
Oliver Miocic joining us with that live report straight from Paris in France. Thank you, Oliver, for taking time out to be with us for that big story here on Beyond World as well.